In 1967, audiences saw Audrey Hepburn as they had never seen her before, or at least they thought they were about to. Two for the Road promised something different, something more daring. There were whispers, magazine teases, even outright claims that Hepburn had filmed her very first skinny dip scene, completely in the buff. But when the final print of the film hit theaters, the scene was nowhere to be found. So what happened? Did Audrey actually shoot the scene and then have it cut? Or was it just a publicity myth? We'll circle back to that mystery. But first, let's talk about how this unusual film came to be. Two for the Road is a British romantic comedy directed by Stanley Donen, the same man who gave the world classics like Singin' in the Rain and Charade. But this movie was no glossy Hollywood fantasy. It was a bold experiment for its time. The story jumps back and forth through a couple's relationship, showing how love changes, sours, revives, and wears down over the course of years. It was non-linear, fragmented, and at times brutally honest. In the mid-1960s, this wasn't your typical date night picture. The story follows Joanna, played by Audrey Hepburn, and her husband Mark, played by Albert Finney. They've been married for 10 years, and as they drive through France towards Saint-Tropez, they reflect, sometimes fondly, sometimes bitterly, on the highs and lows of their relationship. We see them as young lovers, as newlyweds, as weary parents, and as frustrated partners contemplating affairs. The structure is unusual. Scenes don't follow in order, but instead weave together like fragments of memory. Viewers had to piece together the emotional puzzle for themselves. Casting Hepburn and Finney was a stroke of genius. Both were at the peak of their careers, and together they radiated charm, sophistication, and just enough volatility to make the marriage believable. Their chemistry is undeniable, so much so that rumors spread off screen that the two were romantically involved during filming. While both always denied it, it certainly fueled the press around the movie. Stanley Donen made sure Hepburn's role felt grounded. For once, she wasn't floating around in Givenchy couture. The director insisted that Hepburn's wardrobe be made up of clothing that any real woman of the 1960s could buy in stores. This was a sharp break from her usual image as a fashion icon wrapped in Parisian elegance. But it worked. Each outfit helped place her character firmly in the different eras the film depicts. And make no mistake, audiences still swooned at her style. Albert Finney also got to show his range. Known as one of Britain's finest actors, Finney brought a sharp wit and a sometimes caustic edge to Mark Wallace. One of his lines has become immortal. Why is it that making love is always better when it doesn't mean anything? Not exactly the stuff of fairy tales, but very much the biting realism of Two for the Road. The film also gave us one of Henry Mancini's most delicate and haunting scores. Mancini, known for Moon River and the Pink Panther theme, said this was one of the hardest compositions of his career. The movie demanded a score that could leap back and forth across time periods without losing its emotional thread. Despite the struggle, Mancini later called it one of his personal favorites. There were unusual production challenges as well. Hepburn and Finney had to direct themselves in many of the driving scenes. Donen rode alongside in another car, but the two actors were responsible for hitting the camera button and keeping their performances rolling. In the days before GoPros and digital ease, this was a risky move, but it gave the road trip sequences an authenticity. Another unusual moment, Hepburn swearing. She was famous for her ladylike image, but here she uses words like damn and bastard. It may sound mild now, but in the mid-1960s, for Audrey Hepburn, this was borderline shocking. The supporting cast also has fascinating trivia. A young Jacqueline Bisset appears in the film, though eagle-eared viewers will notice her voice isn't always hers. She had to leave production for another project, and some of her lines were dubbed by another actress. Patricia Viterbo, another supporting actress, tragically died in a separate film accident in 1966, before Two for the Road was even released, giving her performance here a bittersweet quality. Even some of the cars in the film carry hidden stories. The couple's MG has a windshield sticker marked January 1960, dating one of the flashbacks precisely. Fans have also noted that Hepburn's hairstyle in certain scenes mirrors her look from Roman Holiday, almost as if Donen wanted to remind audiences of her earlier, carefree screen persona. But not everything went smoothly. Hepburn was famously afraid of water, and the scene where Mark throws Joanna into a pool was nerve-wracking. Divers were hidden just out of frame, ready to jump in if she panicked. In fact, one ruined an early take by leaping in too quickly. Hepburn's fear is genuine on screen. It wasn't just acting. Now let's circle back to that rumor, the supposed skinny dipping scene. For decades, biographers and film buffs have claimed that Hepburn filmed a scene in the nude for Two for the Road. Supposedly, Joanna and Mark skinny dipped together, and this would have been the very first time Hepburn appeared unclothed on film. Some magazines even teased it at the time. Ladies' Home Journal ran a headline asking, "Audrey Hepburn swings?" But when the movie premiered, the scene was nowhere to be found. So did Audrey film it? Accounts vary. Some suggest she did shoot a brief topless sequence, but it was scrapped in editing to preserve her carefully crafted image. Others argue the whole thing was a publicity stunt, playing into the 1960s trend of teasing mainstream actresses breaking taboos. What we do know is that no footage has ever surfaced. Not in cuts, not in outtakes, not in archives. If it ever existed, it vanished completely. And here's where cheeky speculation comes in. Hepburn herself was famously slim, often described as fragile-looking, almost too thin for Hollywood's more voluptuous standards of the time. Some critics have argued that if she did attempt the scene, the filmmakers might have felt it simply wasn't flattering or commercially viable. Others point out that Hepburn was always conscious of her image and might have asked for the footage to be destroyed. Either way, it's one of the great cinematic what-ifs. What's certain is that the mere rumor of the scene helped fuel buzz around the movie. At the time, audiences were fascinated by the idea of Hepburn, Hollywood's ultimate good girl, possibly pushing boundaries into nudity. Even without the footage, the gossip alone guaranteed headline. And in the end, maybe that was the point. Despite all the off-screen chatter, Two for the Road holds up as one of the most insightful and modern takes on marriage from its era. It refuses to paint love as eternal bliss, instead showing it as messy, cyclical, and sometimes painful. The performances of Hepburn and Finney make it timeless, while Donen's innovative storytelling keeps it fresh even today. So was there really an Audrey Hepburn skinny dip scene that got cut? Maybe, maybe not. But the legend of it has kept Two for the Road alive in film circles for decades, and that might be even more powerful than the footage itself. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Audrey Hepburn performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives into cinema's most surprising stories.